All right, welcome back. So we are getting to wrapping things up in Europe at this point. We're not going to get quite to the end, but we're going to get to the lead up to the end today. We've talked about how the war started in Europe. We talked about the strategies they used. Now we're going to talk about the actual course of the war itself, like how it moves forward. Maybe this is actually where I was supposed to talk about the Blitz. I might have preemptively ruined Chronicles of Narnia, maybe. Um, oh, no, actually, we're fine. So we're picking up here with Germany kind of getting frustrated. Um, Hitler's plan all along really revolved around aggression. Blitzkrieg is not a defensive strategy. You cannot defend with Blitzkrieg, you attack with Blitzkrieg. So he was really hoping to take over as much territory as possible and really basically conquer like almost all of Europe, along with Italy and his allies. So he knew that at some point he was going to have to go up against the Soviet Union. And his hope, as we mentioned previously, was to make Britain give up, and then they're out of the war. And then he could focus all of his efforts on taking out Russia. And he probably would have won that war because Russia not really ready for a big fight. He wants the land in Russia, but he also wants the resources in Russia so he can continue to kind of fund the economy and the war machine that he's got going. But he's stalled out with Britain. Britain won't surrender. He can't invade Britain because of the English Channel and the lack of the ability to blitzkrieg. So he finally decides on June 22nd of 1941 that he can't wait any longer. He's going to have to invade Russia at some point. He feels like for now he's kind of got things under wraps with Britain. Remember, this is before America enters the war. This is June of 1941. So, I mean, he's really got Britain and they're stuck in the British Isles. Like, they're not going to do anything. So it's pretty safe in his mind to attack Russia. Right off the bat, though, there's a problem. June is not the best time to start a invasion of Russia. You want to time an invasion of Russia so that it is late enough in spring / early summer that the temperature has cooled down a little, or warmed up a little bit, I should say. That the snow has kind of melted back a little bit. It's not the depths of winter anymore. But you also don't want to do it so late that fall / winter is going to roll around. June 22nd is pretty late in the year, and we already saw one person, Napoleon, who mounted a land invasion of Russia, and it did not go so well for him. So this is a huge mistake on Hitler's part. Number one, he's doing that two-front war thing. He should have remembered his World War I lesson and remembered how bad a two-front war was for Germany. But again, he felt like it was kind of safe to do. The other problem is, not only does he start late in the year, in June 22nd, he also does a detour down into the Balkans to take some territory around Greece and stuff, and he kind of takes a little bit of extra time getting there. So Russia is able to do that thing that they've always done. In fact, the exact same thing they did with Napoleon, scorched earth tactics. As Germany starts to come into Russia, Russia goes, oh, you want our cities, our towns, our farmland? Well, if we can't have it, neither can you. And they start burning that stuff down as they retreat. So now Germany is low on resources. Their supply lines are really spread out. It's hard for their supply lines to move through Russia because of the bad climate and the bad terrain. So suddenly, Hitler is being forced to spend a huge amount of resources fighting in Russia. And then the casualties start mounting up because, yeah, you can take over territory in Russia and you can, beat back their military forces because you have way more military supplies and you're way more advanced than they are. They got a lot more people than you do. They are familiar with the terrain. They are fighting a defensive war, which gives them an inherent advantage. So suddenly you see Germany getting bogged down further and further in Russia. And in fact, even though we like to pretend like it was the West that won World War II, and the West was definitely important in World War II. Russia would have gotten destroyed if they were fighting Germany on their own, but they weren't fighting Germany on their own. However, casualties for Germany fighting the Soviet Union were higher than all other military actions for Germany during World War II put together. So to Russia, they lost more troops or wounded more troops than they did fighting Britain, France, America, Poland, like all that other stuff put together. So Russia plays a huge part in just grinding down Germany the same way they did during World War One, the same role that Russia has kind of always played in these large conflicts of they are a meat grinder, and that decimates the invading country because they can't keep up with that in the same way that Russia, like Stalin doesn't care about losing millions of people. He'll keep throwing those people in as long as it takes to win. Then Stalingrad happens. This is a disaster for Germany. This is a catastrophe. So basically, Stalingrad is a city in Russia, but it's also the name of a battle fought at that city. Germany comes in and they take over the city. They're super strong. Russia can't hold them back, so Russia is forced to retreat. However, what happens is they then kind of devolve into house-to-house fighting because the Russians kind of turn it into like urban guerrilla warfare pretty much. And they bog down the German troops for long enough for Russian troops to come in and surround the city. And then the Germans are the ones that are on the defensive. They can't get away. They lose an entire mechanized infantry division. They absolutely get decimated in this. They lose all momentum in invading Russia. After Stalingrad, it's basically a gradual and then rapid, as they start really losing, retreat for Germany out of Russia. So Stalingrad's kind of like the peak moment for them where things just start going downhill in Russia and kind of the war as a whole. So at this point, you can see our map of advancement here. That's the Battle of Stalingrad right over there. You can see that's the farthest they get. They kind of push a little bit farther down here, but that's not like that. That's the end of it. They're going to start getting pushed back here. Moscow fight over here. Leningrad, they get over here. You got Leningrad and Stalingrad. You can see their naming patterns here. So they get pushed back. Then these are the Allied actions I was talking about in the last PowerPoint in North Africa when they go up into Italy. And then, of course, eventually you get D-Day, Operation Overlord, and they push in through here into Germany where they eventually surrender. There's Denmark getting taken over in 24 hours. Oops. Meanwhile, as this is going on in Russia, remember that the Allied plan turned out to go after North Africa. America wanted to go straight into France, but they kind of were forced to go to North Africa instead. Worked out pretty well for them. They do have a pretty tough time fighting this dude right here, Rommel, also known as the Desert Fox. He loses eventually, though. Rommel, by the way, like on the Nazi scale, he was actually like not that bad of a dude. He wasn't really down with any of like the ethnic cleansing they were talking about. He was really big on the idea of honorable warfare. He actually was part of a plan to take out Hitler, and he was actually executed by Hitler as a result of that. And it was portrayed to the public as if he had been attacked and killed by Allied troops. But like this guy, like, yeah, he was a Nazi, but he was actually like not that bad of a dude because he wasn't really a Nazi. Like he went against a lot of Nazi ideology. So Rommel, pretty good like tank tactician in North Africa, and not that bad of a dude overall. I mean, he did try to get rid of Hitler, so we got to give him some credit there. So by May of 1943, despite Rommel's resistance, it turns out that the Allies are victorious in North Africa, which means they can move to that next part. Remember, they weren't invading North Africa because they really wanted North Africa. They were invading North Africa because they wanted to invade Italy. So where are we headed next? Italy. And you can see once Google Slides gets rid of it, there we go. I won't move the mouse to show you again. But you can see how North Africa would help you attack Italy down here because you're right there. Like if you get Algeria and especially Tunisia over there, like you could just like a hop, skip, and a jump over to Italy right there, and then you could take them out. So that's good news for you if you can hold on to that area, which they do now. Turns out Italy, not actually that important, because what happens is Italy gets pretty messed up somewhat quickly. America is still on the idea of like, hey, let's go to France. But Britain goes, no, come on, let's go Italy. Italy is a much softer, easier target. We invade Italy on July 10th, 1943. And what we're hoping for is a really quick victory because Italy is pretty weak at this point. Their southern defense is not that strong. And we do take out Italy with relative ease. It's not as easy as we were hoping, but we do manage to do it. Mussolini actually gets removed from power by the government, by the people of Italy, and he is executed because he's losing everything now and he lost all of his support. But what happens, and the reason why the Italian campaign ends up going on until the end of the war, is all memes aside, Germany doesn't actually pull out of Italy. They do betray Italy, though. What they do is once the Italian government gets rid of Mussolini and basically is willing to give up to the Allies, Germany just moves in and takes over northern Italy. And that's significant. Let me go back to this map here for a second. Oh, it's not a geographic map, so you can't really see it. If you know anything about northern Italy and this area of Europe, you might know that there is a pretty extensive mountain range going on right here. Like, that's why you can see Switzerland up here. You might know that Switzerland is a pretty mountainous country. These are basically all mountains. And the problem with that is it's really easy to fortify mountains. So we wanted to take Italy because that would give us direct access to Germany. Look at that. You could just go right from Italy in there. But they just take over and fortify this area, and now we're fighting in Italy, and then we have to go to France anyway. So, we got some surrendering going on. We got some loyalty issues. We got Italy jumping back and forth because Italy has once again jumped onto the side of the Allies. Italy's just not reliable, you guys. So at this point, we have to do that thing that Britain has been desperately trying to avoid for all of World War II. We're going to have to invade France. We can't really get into Germany any other way. They're not really getting pushed back fast enough in Russia, and even if they were, we can't effectively get to Russia that easily from the west. We were hoping to go through Italy. We can't do that now. There's no real option aside from landing on France. And you might be like, let's go back to this map. Maybe you're like, well, why don't we just attack from southern France? The problem there is the amount of time it's going to take the fleet to get around, right? And Germany has intel. They know our troop movements in general, right? We can move small numbers of troops, but you can't take over France with a small number of troops. You need an invasion force. And if we move all of our forces around here, they're going to know that, and it's way easier for them to move forces from here to here than it is for us to move forces from here to here, right? So no matter where we attack, they're going to be ready for us. And this is the most logical attack because it can go directly from Britain, where our main stronghold is at this point, into France. So we got to do it. So we start Operation Overlord with that whole, D-Day thing. That's the official name for it. The invasion of France begins 2 days after Rome finally falls. And again, that's basically the end of the war. It's June 4th, 1944. So at this point, the end of the war in Europe, there we go, is less than a year away. So it's not really going to help us out that much. And again, Germany still controls northern Italy, so we can't even really use that. So Germany now is losing. There is no more chance from the Blitzkrieg because they can't go offensively. They're running out of supplies. They're running out of soldiers. But Normandy is still fortified to heck and back. So it is an incredibly costly invasion. You guys are probably familiar with D-Day. Most people are, but it's, you got to land on the beach and there's all kinds of machine guns shooting at you. There's artillery fire going on from the background. There's the beachheads with all the barbed wire and everything on them. You've got the American and British and some French paratroopers coming in and dropping in behind the enemy lines. That's where the movie Saving Private Ryan comes in. All of that stuff is, part of that invasion. Once this invasion happens, though, it's pretty much directly loss for Germany. Once they lose that bulkhead, that defensive position in France, they just lose battle after battle after battle as we push closer and closer to Germany from the west, and Russia starts pushing in more rapidly from the east, and we're going to end up meeting in Germany and have to make plans to not kill each other. So battles of World War II Europe. Did we already get there? Yeah, I guess we did. I went through this PowerPoint faster than I thought I was going to. So this is the activity that you guys are going to get assigned after this. We'll have one more lecture as our fifth assignment this week. Like I said, a little bit more accelerated than we've been doing for the past couple weeks. Battles of World War II Europe is the exact same as Battles of World War I. I'm going to have some battles readers for you. There's going to be a document. You read through them. You use them to fill out the information on there, and you put them in. So we're going to, after this, hop into the Pacific Theater, get to the same point where it's like right at the end of the war, and then we'll wrap up the end of the war at the end of the unit. So thank you guys for listening, and I will talk to you next time.